The rain slithers down the brick walls, each droplet catching the sickly yellow glow of distant streetlights. The pavement glistens black, reflecting fractured light between puddles that ripple with each new drop. Steam rises from a nearby grate, curling upward like ghostly fingers before dissolving into the night. Rowan Hale pulls his EMT jacket tighter, the fabric making a soft rustling sound against his uniform. His boots splash through shallow puddles, each step echoing between the narrow walls of the alley. The smell of wet concrete mingles with the sharp tang of garbage from overflowing dumpsters. His breath forms small clouds that dissipate into the cold air. The radio at his hip crackles with static. Dispatch voices filter through, distant and tinny. "Unit 17, what's your 20? Rowan unclips the radio, his fingers stiff from the cold. "Just taking a shortcut back to the rig. Last pickup was a false alarm." "Copy that. You're clear for now. Quiet night." "Too quiet," he mutters after releasing the talk button. His shoulders ache from the 12-hour shift. 3 overdoses, 1 heart attack, and 2 drunk college kids with minor injuries. Standard fare for a Thursday night. The weight of his medical bag pulls at his left shoulder, the strap digging in despite the padding. A cat darts from behind a dumpster, its sudden movement sending Rowan's heart rate spiking. He exhales slowly, watching the animal disappear around a corner. The silence that follows feels heavier somehow, as if the air itself has thickened. Rowan pauses, tilting his head. Something isn't right. The constant background hum of the city seems muffled here, like sound itself is being absorbed by the shadows. The hairs on his forearms rise beneath his jacket. A metallic taste fills his mouth, the same taste he gets before a major trauma call, his body's warning system. "Hello?" His voice sounds small against the looming walls. No response, only the persistent patter of rain. He should keep moving. His partner will be wondering where he is. But something holds him in place. A feeling he hasn't experienced since that night 3 years ago, when his brother Daniel's ambulance never returned from its call. A soft sound breaks the rhythm of rainfall, a whimper so quiet it might have been imagined. Rowan turns toward it, squinting into the darkness between 2 dumpsters. "Someone there? I'm a paramedic." His voice steadies, shifting into professional mode. "I can help." Another sound, fabric sliding against brick. Rowan reaches for the flashlight on his belt, the metal cold against his fingers. The beam cuts through the darkness, illuminating a narrow gap. A woman sits curled against the wall, her pale arms wrapped around drawn-up knees. Her dress, once white, now stained with dirt and something darker, clings to her frame. Her dark hair hangs in wet ropes around a face too perfect to be sitting in an alley at 3 a.m. "Ma'am?" Rowan approaches slowly, the way he would a cornered animal. "Are you hurt?" Her head lifts. Eyes meet his, not brown or blue or green, but a color he's never seen before, like amber backlit with fire. They widen at the sight of him. "Please." The word barely carries over the rain. "Turn off the light." Something in her voice, a musical quality that doesn't match their surroundings, makes him comply without question. The flashlight clicks off, plunging them back into shadow broken only by distant streetlights. Rowan kneels, keeping a professional distance. "My name is Rowan. I'm an EMT. Can you tell me if you're injured?" She doesn't answer, but her gaze never leaves his face. The intensity of her stare makes his skin prickle with goosebumps that have nothing to do with the cold. "I need to check your vitals." He sets his medical bag down, the sound of the zipper unnaturally loud. "Can you tell me your name?" A long pause stretches between them. Rain drums steadily on metal dumpsters, creating a strange percussion. Seraphine. Her voice sounds like it comes from somewhere else, somewhere far away and long ago. Seraphine Vale. The name hangs in the air between them. Rowan reaches for his penlight, a smaller, less intrusive beam. I'm going to check your pupils, Seraphine. Standard procedure. As he leans forward, the scent hits him. Not the expected odor of someone living on the streets, but something rich and complex. Like old books and copper and something floral he can't identify. His fingers tremble slightly as he reaches toward her face. Seraphine catches his wrist. Her grip is shockingly cold and impossibly strong. Don't. One word, but it reverberates through his bones. Rowan freezes. Her skin against his sends a current up his arm, a sensation like touching an exposed wire. Not painful, but alarming in its intensity. You need medical attention, he says, trying to reclaim professional distance. I'm just trying to help. You cannot help me the way you think. Her words form with precise diction, each syllable carefully shaped. But perhaps in another way. She releases his wrist, leaving behind a coldness that lingers. Rowan rubs the spot, noticing 5 perfect circles where her fingertips pressed. Are you in some kind of trouble? He asks, glancing toward the mouth of the alley. Should I call the police? Seraphine's laugh is brittle, like ice cracking. They would not understand what hunts me. The word hunts sends a chill down Rowan's spine. He should radio this in, follow protocol. This woman clearly needs psychiatric evaluation, possibly addiction services. But something stops him. The same instinct that sometimes tells him which patient needs attention first at a multiple casualty scene. What's hunting you? Rowan asks, settling into a crouch to make himself less threatening. His knees protest against the cold concrete. Seraphine's gaze shifts past him, scanning the darkness, beyond the alley's entrance. The rain has slowed to a drizzle, each drop distinct as it hits the puddles around them. My daughters, she whispers, though they are no longer mine in any way that matters. Rowan's training kicks in. Possible delusion, potential family conflict. He's dealt with domestic situations before. Are they trying to hurt you? They wish to take what is mine by right. Her fingers move to her neck, tracing a pattern on her pale skin. What has always been mine. A siren wails in the distance, its rise and fall painting the night with urgency. Seraphine flinches at the sound, pressing herself further into the shadows. Rowan's radio crackles. Unit 17, status check. He should answer. Protocol demands it. His partner will be worried. But Seraphine's eyes hold him, pleading silently. The radio crackles again. Rowan, where are you, man? Everything okay? With reluctance, he unclips the radio. All good. Just checking on someone. False alarm. Be there in 5. Copy that. Don't make me come looking for you. Seraphine's shoulders relax slightly as he replaces the radio. You lied for me. I bought us time, Rowan corrects. You need help, and I'm trying to figure out what kind. His medical training wars with something deeper, more instinctual. This woman doesn't present like his typical patients. No visible trauma, no signs of intoxication, yet something is clearly wrong. I need sanctuary, she says, her voice stronger now. Just until dawn. I can take you to a shelter. No. The word cuts through the air like a blade. No public places. They will find me there. Rowan shifts, his boots scraping against wet pavement. Water has soaked through his uniform pants at the knees, the cold seeping into his skin. These daughters of yours, are they dangerous? Seraphine's lips curve into something too sad to be a smile. They were once beautiful. Now they are only hungry. A metallic clang from the far end of the alley makes them both turn. A cat leaps from a dumpster, disappearing into the shadows. But the tension doesn't leave Seraphine's body. "We need to go," she whispers, urgency threading through her voice. "They're coming." Rowan doesn't see anyone, doesn't hear anything beyond the normal sounds of the city, but the fear in her eyes seems genuine. He weighs his options. Leave her here, take her to the hospital against her will, or... "My shift ends in an hour," he says, the words forming before he's fully considered them. "I could take you somewhere safe after that." The look she gives him, hope mingled with something ancient and knowing, makes his chest tighten. 1 hour may be too late. She reaches out, her pale fingers hovering near his face without touching. "You have kind eyes, like your brother." The mention of a brother he's never discussed freezes Rowan in place. "What did you say?" "Daniel had the same look when he found me." Her voice softens. "Before the accident." The world tilts sideways. Daniel's accident, the one that took his life 3 years ago, had been on a rainy night like this one. No witnesses, just an ambulance wrapped around a tree with no explanation for why it had veered off the road. "How do you know my brother?" Rowan's voice comes out hoarse. Before she can answer, the atmosphere changes. The air grows dense, charged like the moment before lightning strikes. The temperature seems to drop several degrees in seconds, his breath suddenly more visible in the air between them. Seraphine's head snaps up, her eyes widening. "They're here." The rain stops, not gradually, but all at once, as if someone has flipped a switch. The sudden silence rings in Rowan's ears, broken only by the steady drip of water from fire escapes above. "Who's here?" he whispers. But Seraphine is already moving, pulling herself up against the wall. Her movements are too fluid, too graceful for someone who appeared injured moments ago. She stands to her full height, taller than he expected, and places a hand on his chest. "Stay behind me," she commands, and something in her voice makes it impossible to disobey. At the alley's entrance, shadows shift and separate from the darkness. 3 figures step forward in perfect unison, their silhouettes feminine but somehow wrong, too angular, too precise in their movements. They wear identical crimson dresses that seem to absorb the meager light rather than reflect it. "My queen," the center figure calls, her voice carrying an echo that shouldn't be possible in the open air. "How long will you run from your responsibilities?" Seraphine steps forward, placing herself between Rowan and the newcomers. "I am still your queen, Lilith. Remember your place." The one called Lilith laughs, the sound like glass breaking. "A queen without a court. A ruler without subjects. What are you now but a relic?" Rowan's heart hammers against his ribs. This isn't a domestic dispute or a psychiatric episode. The air itself feels charged with something he can't name, something that makes his instincts scream danger. "The human belongs to you," another of the women speaks, her head tilting at an unnatural angle as she studies Rowan. "He smells of fear and something else, familiarity." "He is under my protection," Seraphine says, her back straight, her posture regal despite her bedraggled appearance. "As was his brother." The third woman steps forward, her movements too smooth, like water flowing uphill. "The last one died so beautifully. His blood sang to us for days." A roaring fills Rowan's ears. Daniel. They're talking about Daniel. His fingers curl into fists at his sides. "What is this?" he demands, his voice steadier than he feels. Who are you people? The three women turn to him in perfect synchronization, their eyes catching the distant streetlight. They don't reflect light. They absorb it. Black holes where eyes should be. Huh. We are the Crimson Daughters, Lilith says, her smile revealing teeth too sharp, too white. And you are standing beside a fugitive queen who has abandoned her throne. Seraphine's hand finds Rowan's, her fingers intertwining with his. Her touch sends images cascading through his mind. Flashes of ancient stone chambers, of rituals performed under moonlight, of a crown made from materials no human craftsman could forge. Run, she whispers, the words somehow inside his head rather than spoken aloud. The Crimson Daughters move forward as one, their steps leaving no sound on the wet pavement. The air grows thick with the smell of ozone and copper. Give us the crown, Seraphine, Lilith demands, extending a hand that seems to elongate as it reaches toward them. It was never meant for one who harbors such weakness for their food. Seraphine's grip tightens on Rowan's hand. More images flood his mind. Daniel's face, pale and determined. The same alley, a choice made, blood freely given. Your brother chose to help me, Seraphine's voice echoes in his mind. He died protecting what he didn't fully understand. Will you make the same choice, knowing what it might cost? The Crimson Daughters are closer now, their movements blurring at the edges, reality seeming to bend around them. Rowan feels the weight of the moment pressing down on him, time stretching like taffy. In this suspended moment, he sees Seraphine clearly for the first time, not just a woman in distress, but something ancient and powerful, something that has walked the earth when civilizations rose and fell, something his brother had deemed worthy of the ultimate sacrifice. The choice crystallizes before him: run and live in ignorance, or step into a world he can never unsee, where his brother's final moments might finally make sense. Rowan takes a breath that feels like his first and his last. What do you need me to do? Tell me, Rowan finishes, his voice barely audible over the hissing chorus of the Crimson Daughters. Seraphine's eyes flash silver in the darkness. Your blood, freely given as his was. Her cold fingers trace the pulse at his wrist. But know this: once offered, there is no return to the life you knew. Time compresses around them. The Crimson Daughters' forms stretch and distort, their limbs elongating like shadows at sunset. Rowan's mind reels with the impossibility before him, yet Daniel's face burns in his memory, determined, knowing, purposeful even in death. Yes, he says, the word tearing from his throat before he can reconsider. Seraphine moves with impossible speed. Her lips brush his neck, not in a kiss, but in preparation. Forgive me, she whispers against his skin, then pain, sharp, electric, intimate. Rowan gasps as her teeth break through, the violation immediately followed by a rush of something like pleasure but darker, deeper. His knees buckle. The alley tilts. Through swimming vision, he sees the Crimson Daughters recoil, their beautiful faces contorted with rage. The second son, Lilith hisses. It cannot be. Seraphine withdraws, her mouth stained crimson. She bites her own wrist in one swift motion, pressing the wound to Rowan's lips. Drink, she commands. Quickly. The taste is copper and wine and something ancient, earth and starlight. It burns down his throat, spreads through his chest like wildfire. The world sharpens around him, colors intensifying, sounds clarifying. He hears heartbeats, his own slowing, the frightened flutter of a pigeon roosting 3 stories above. Enough! Seraphine pulls her wrist away, supporting his weight as he sways. We must move. Now! The Crimson Daughters circle them, their movements a blur of red and shadow. Seraphine's arm tightens around Rowan's waist. "Close your eyes," she warns. The world dissolves. Rowan feels his body stretching, compressing, moving without moving. Wind rushes past his face, carrying scents he's never detected before. River water, distant smoke, the metallic tang of the city's skeleton. His stomach lurches violently, then stillness, solid ground beneath his feet. He opens his eyes to find they're on a rooftop, 20 stories above the street. The city sprawls below them, a constellation of lights pulsing like earthbound stars. His legs give way, and he collapses onto the rough surface of the roof. "What? What did you do to me?" His voice sounds wrong in his ears, too resonant. Seraphine kneels beside him, her pale face grave in the moonlight. "I've given you a chance, for both of us." She glances over her shoulder. "They'll find us again soon. The blood bond makes you traceable." Rowan presses his palms against the rough concrete, anchoring himself against the vertigo. "Blood bond. Right." He laughs, the sound edged with hysteria. "Because you're a vampire, and my brother." The words catch in his throat. "Daniel knew what he was doing," Seraphine says softly. "He understood the prophecy." "Prophecy?" Rowan shakes his head, immediately regretting it as the world spins. "No. No prophecies. Just tell me what happened to my brother. The truth." Seraphine's gaze is ancient, weary. "The truth is complicated, and we don't have time for all of it." She rises, offering her hand. "But I can show you where it began." Rowan stares at her outstretched fingers, pale as moonlight against the night sky. Taking her hand feels like another threshold, another point of no return. But he's already crossed one tonight. What's one more? He lets her pull him to his feet. The city sways beneath him, but his balance steadies faster than it should. "Where are we going?" "To the place where your brother made his choice." Her eyes reflect the city lights, and where everything changed. They move through the night like shadows, Seraphine leading him across rooftops with impossible ease. Rowan finds his body responding strangely, muscles coiling and releasing with new strength, senses heightened to painful clarity. He can hear conversations from open windows as they pass, smell the distinct perfume of a woman walking her dog 12 stories below. "What's happening to me?" he gasps as they pause on a water tower. "I feel..." "It's temporary," Seraphine says. "The blood exchange. It opens certain doors in human perception, but they'll close again by dawn." She studies his face. Unless what? Unless the prophecy is true." She turns away. "Come. We're close." They descend fire escapes and slip through shadows until they reach an old building in the warehouse district. Brick walls rise 4 stories, windows boarded or broken. Seraphine leads him to a rusted door, which opens at her touch. Inside, darkness pools like water. Rowan expects to be blind, but his vision adjusts immediately, revealing a vast open space. Pillars rise to a distant ceiling. Dust motes hang suspended in shafts of moonlight from high windows. "What is this place?" he whispers, his voice echoing. "Once a cathedral of commerce, now sanctuary." Seraphine moves deeper into the space. "Your brother found me here 3 months ago." Rowan follows, his footsteps unnaturally loud on the concrete floor. "How? Why would Daniel come here?" "He was following the same pattern you were. The deaths, the drained bodies." She glances back at him. "He was clever, your brother. He saw connections others missed." At the center of the vast room stands a circular dais, raised slightly from the floor. Seraphine steps onto it, and soft light blooms around her feet, spreading outward in intricate patterns. Symbols Rowan doesn't recognize glow with pale blue luminescence. Daniel helped me create this, she says. A warding circle, protection against those who hunt me. Rowan approaches cautiously, feeling energy prickle against his skin. The Crimson Daughters. Yes, and others. Seraphine sinks gracefully to sit cross-legged at the center of the circle. They were once my sisters, my court. Now they serve a different master. Rowan remains standing, unwilling to enter the circle. You still haven't told me what happened to Daniel. Pain flashes across Seraphine's face. He died protecting this. She reaches into her coat and withdraws an object wrapped in dark cloth. Unwrapping it, she reveals what looks like a silver circlet, thin and delicate, set with 3 black stones. The crown they mentioned, Rowan breathes. The crown of night. For centuries, it has passed from one keeper to the next, maintaining balance between my kind and yours. Her fingers trace the silver wirework. I was chosen as its guardian. The Crimson Daughters believed this was a mistake. And Daniel? Seraphine rewraps the crown carefully. He discovered me wounded, hunted. I had been fleeing for weeks. The crown's power was fading without sustenance. She meets his eyes directly. I needed blood freely given, with full knowledge of what was at stake. Daniel offered his. The words hang in the air between them. Rowan feels his throat tighten. He died for that? For you? Not for me. Seraphine's voice hardens. For what I represent. For the balance. She rises in one fluid motion. The Crimson Daughters found us before the ritual was complete. Daniel fought them, bought me time to escape with the crown, but his sacrifice was incomplete. And now you need me to finish what he started, Rowan says flatly. The prophecy speaks of 2 brothers, blood of the same blood. Seraphine steps toward him, stopping at the edge of the glowing circle. I didn't believe it until I saw you tonight. You have the same mark. What mark? She reaches out, her fingertips hovering near his left eye. Here, a fleck of gold in the iris, the sign of a keeper's bloodline. Rowan steps back. This is insane. I'm an EMT, not some chosen one in a fairy tale. Yet here you stand, with my blood in your veins, seeing in darkness, hearing heartbeats from streets away. Her expression softens. I didn't choose this destiny either, Rowan. I was a merchant's daughter in Cologne 700 years ago. I had dreams of family, of simple joys. The vulnerability in her voice catches him off guard. For the first time, he sees past the otherworldly beauty to something recognizably human in her eyes. Loneliness, weariness, the weight of too many years. What happens if these Crimson Daughters get the crown? He asks. They deliver it to their new master. The balance tips. The veil between worlds thins. She looks away. Your kind becomes cattle. Mine becomes monsters in truth, not just in legend. A sound echoes from somewhere in the building. Metal on metal, distant but distinct. Seraphine tenses. They've found us sooner than I expected. Rowan's heart pounds. The blood bond. You said they could track it. Yes, but the warding circle will hide us temporarily. She extends her hand across the boundary of light. Join me inside, please. He hesitates, studying her face. If I step into that circle with you, am I committing to this? To whatever ritual my brother started? No. That choice remains yours. Her eyes are earnest in the glowing light. But I cannot protect you if you remain outside. Another sound, closer now. a scraping, like claws on stone. Rowan makes his decision, stepping across the boundary of light. Warmth washes over him, a sensation like stepping into sunlight after long cold. The moment he's inside, Seraphine kneels, pressing her palms to the symbols on the floor. They flare brighter, the circle expanding upward in a dome of translucent energy. "What now?" Rowan asks, watching shadows move at the edges of the vast room. "Now I show you the truth, all of it." Seraphine sits back on her heels. "So you can make an informed choice as your brother did." She takes his hands, her skin cool against his. "Close your eyes," she instructs. "See what I've seen." Rowan hesitates, then complies. Darkness swallows him, then bursts into images. Medieval streets, narrow and filthy, a girl with Seraphine's face but simpler clothes, laughing with a young man in a market square. The same girl, older, walking alone at night, a shadow descending. Pain, transformation. Centuries compressed into flashing moments, courts and castles, blood and betrayal, loneliness stretching across time like an endless winter. Then newer memories. A council of pale figures arguing around a stone table, the crown passing to Seraphine's hands, dissent, schism, the Crimson Daughters turning against her, hunting her through decades. And finally, Daniel, his face determined as he offers his wrist, his eyes knowing as he speaks words Rowan can't hear. The vision dissolves. Rowan gasps, pulling his hands away. "That was my life, my burden." Seraphine's eyes are bright with unshed tears. And this is the prophecy. She reaches out again, this time placing her palm against his forehead. A single image forms in his mind. Two men standing before a great darkness, their hands joined, blood flowing between them. Behind them, countless human figures. Before them, shadows with teeth and hunger. "Two brothers shall stand at the veil," Seraphine recites, her voice taking on a rhythmic quality. "Blood of the same blood, heart of different hearts. One to begin, one to complete. Through their sacrifice, the crown renews." She withdraws her hand. "Your brother believed. He gave himself willingly to begin the ritual that would strengthen the crown and seal the veil for another century." Rowan opens his eyes, finding the warehouse around them transformed. The Crimson Daughters circle the dome of light, their beautiful faces distorted with rage and hunger. They press against the barrier, testing it, their fingers leaving trails of frost where they touch. "The warding won't hold them much longer," Seraphine says quietly. "Not all three together." "Why me?" Rowan demands, his voice breaking. "Why my family?" "I don't know. Fate. Chance." She shakes her head. "The prophecy is older than I am. I only know that when I met Daniel, I recognized him immediately, as I recognized you tonight." One of the Crimson Daughters, Lilith, steps forward, her red hair floating around her face as if underwater. "Seraphine," she calls, her voice distorted through the barrier. "This is beneath you, using these humans, hiding behind their blood." "You know why I must," Seraphine replies, rising to her feet. "The old ways are dying," another daughter says, this one with skin like polished ebony and eyes like amber. "Our new master offers freedom, true power. No more hiding, no more hunger." "At what cost, Nyx?" Seraphine challenges. "How many humans has he already drained completely? How many turned to mindless thralls?" The third daughter laughs, the sound like breaking glass. Her features are Asian, her movements more predatory than the others. "They are food, sister, nothing more. You've grown sentimental in your old age." "You know that's not true, May." Seraphine's voice holds centuries of weariness. We were guardians once, all of us. Rowan watches this exchange, feeling increasingly like a pawn in a game he doesn't understand. These are your sisters, he whispers. Once, Seraphine answers without looking at him. We ruled together for 3 centuries, until their ambition outweighed their wisdom. Lilith prowls the perimeter of the dome, her movements liquid. We've found your other sanctuaries, Seraphine. This is the last. Surrender the crown, and perhaps our master will be merciful. You know I cannot. Then we take it from your ashes. Lilith's smile reveals teeth too sharp, too numerous, and from the corpse of your pet human. The 3 daughters move in perfect synchronization, placing their palms against the barrier at equidistant points. The dome shudders, its light flickering. They're breaking through, Rowan says, panic rising in his throat. Seraphine turns to him, her face calm despite the danger. I won't force you, Rowan. The choice must be yours. But know this, if you walk away, I will fall. The crown will pass to them, and your world changes forever. The barrier flickers again, more violently. Cracks appear in the light, spreading like ice on a spring pond. What exactly do you need from me? Rowan asks, his mouth dry. The ritual your brother began requires completion. Blood freely given, with full knowledge and acceptance. She holds his gaze. But it will change you. Not fully into what I am, but you won't be entirely human afterward. The implications crash over him. You're asking me to give up my humanity? My life? I'm asking you to transform it, to become something between worlds. A guardian, like your brother would have been. Her voice softens. It is too much to ask. I know this. Another crack in the barrier, larger this time. The Crimson Daughter's laughter echoes through the warehouse. Rowan thinks of his life, the night shifts at the hospital, the empty apartment, the years spent wondering what really happened to Daniel. He thinks of the bodies he's seen recently, drained and discarded. He thinks of what might happen if these creatures roam unchecked. If I do this, he says slowly, what happens afterward? Do I just go back to my life? You can try, Seraphine answers honestly. Many keepers have, but you'll be different. You'll see things others can't. Feel things others don't. She pauses. And you'll be bound to me, in ways even I don't fully understand. The barrier shatters at one point, Lilith's hand thrusting through. Seraphine gasps, dropping to one knee as if struck. The breach seals itself, but slower than before. We're out of time, she says, her voice strained. Decide, Rowan Hale. He looks at her, really looks, seeing both the immortal creature and the merchant's daughter from Cologne. He sees her loneliness, her determination, her fear. And he sees something else, a reflection of his brother's resolve. Daniel believed this was worth dying for, he says, half to himself. Yes, he did. Rowan takes a deep breath. Then show me what to do. Relief washes over Seraphine's face. She unwraps the crown again, placing it between them on the floor of the circle. Kneel with me. He does, facing her across the silver circlet. Its black stones seem to absorb the light around them. Your brother began the ritual with his blood, she explains, taking Rowan's hands in hers. It infused the crown with protective energy, but his sacrifice was interrupted. The power is fading. She turns his wrists upward, her thumbs brushing his pulse points. To complete the ritual, your blood must join his within the crown. But this time, I must take it differently. How? From here, She touches his throat, and here, his wrist, and here, over his heart. 3 points of power. It will be intense. The barrier cracks again, multiple breaches appearing now. The Crimson Daughter's hands reach through like pale spiders grasping at air. Will it kill me? Rowan asks bluntly. No, but you'll wish it had for a moment. Her honesty is strangely reassuring. Are you certain, Rowan Hale? He thinks of Daniel again, of the bodies in the morgue, of Seraphine's memories, centuries of loneliness. Yes, he says, I'm certain. She nods once, then moves with that inhuman speed, behind him before he can blink. Her arms encircle him, one hand splayed over his heart, the other tilting his head to expose his throat. Thank you, she whispers against his skin. The pain is immediate and overwhelming. Her teeth at his throat, drawing blood in long pulls that he can feel through his entire body. The warehouse dims around him, reality tunneling to this single point of connection. He feels his heartbeat slowing, his consciousness floating. Then she's at his wrist, opening a new wound, and the pain flares again. Blood drips onto the crown below them, the silver seeming to drink it in. The black stones begin to glow with a dark inner light. Finally, her hand moves aside his shirt, her mouth finding the skin over his heart. This pain is different, deeper, more fundamental. Rowan cries out, his body arching. It feels like she's drawing out not just blood, but something essential, something that makes him who he is. The crown blazes now, the symbols on the floor responding, the entire circle pulsing with light. Through dimming vision, Rowan sees the Crimson Daughters recoil, their beautiful faces contorted with rage and fear. Seraphine releases him, supporting his weight as he slumps backward. Her face hovers above his, her mouth stained with his blood. It's not complete, she says urgently. You must drink from me now. Close the circle. She bites her own wrist, deeper than before, and presses it to his mouth. The blood is different this time. Electric, potent, burning like liquid fire. It races through him, remaking him cell by cell. He drinks desperately, instinctively, his hands clutching her arm. The crown between them levitates, spinning slowly, its light intensifying until it's painful to look at. The symbols on the floor rise into the air, forming a complex, three-dimensional pattern around them. Enough, Seraphine says, pulling her wrist away. She lifts the crown with both hands, placing it on her head. Light explodes outward, a shockwave that shatters what remains of the barrier. But instead of breaking in, the Crimson Daughters are thrown backward, slamming into the warehouse walls with supernatural force. The building itself shakes, dust and debris raining from the ceiling. Rowan lies on the floor, his body simultaneously leaden and electrified. He feels changed, fundamentally altered. His senses have expanded beyond anything human. He can hear heartbeats from blocks away, smell the individual components of the air around him, see motes of dust as clearly as planets. And he feels Seraphine, not just her presence, but her essence, a connection thrumming between them like a taut wire. She kneels beside him, the crown blazing on her brow. It worked, she says, wonder in her voice. The ritual is complete. Rowan tries to speak but can only manage a groan. His body feels foreign, as if he's wearing someone else's skin. Rest, she soothes, her hand cool against his forehead. Your body is transforming. It will pass. A sound cuts through the warehouse, a slow clapping, echoing from the shadows. Seraphine freezes, her expression shifting to one Rowan hasn't seen before. Pure, undiluted fear. Beautifully done, my queen. A male voice purrs from the darkness. I couldn't have orchestrated it better myself. A figure steps into the moonlight, tall, elegantly dressed in a charcoal suit that seems to absorb the light around it. His face is beautiful in a way that hurts to look at, his eyes the color of tarnished silver. The Crimson Daughters, recovering from the blast, bow their heads in unison. Master, Lilith breathes. Seraphine rises, placing herself between the newcomer and Rowan's prone form. Azrael, she says, the name like ice on her tongue. The man smiles, revealing teeth too white, too perfect. My dear Seraphine, did you really think I wouldn't be watching, waiting for precisely this moment? He gestures to the crown on her head. Now that you've so helpfully recharged our little bauble, I'll be taking it, and you, home. The ritual protects the crown, Seraphine says, but uncertainty threads through her voice. You cannot take it by force. Oh, I'm counting on that. Azrael's smile widens as his gaze drops to Rowan. That's why I'm taking him instead. He moves with blinding speed, past Seraphine before she can react. Cold hands grasp Rowan's shoulders, lifting him, as if he weighs nothing. Rowan tries to struggle, but his body won't respond properly, caught in the throes of transformation. No! Seraphine lunges forward, but the Crimson Daughters intercept her, their combined strength holding her back. Azrael holds Rowan before him like a shield. You feel it, don't you? The bond between you, the connection the ritual created. His breath is cold against Rowan's ear. Where he goes, you will follow, and you'll bring the crown right to my door. Rowan feels Seraphine's desperation through their new bond, her fear washing over him in waves. He struggles against Azrael's grip, managing to gasp out, Run! Seraphine! Don't! A hand clamps over his mouth. That's quite enough from you, little guardian. Azrael nods to the Crimson Daughters. Ladies, shall we? They move toward the exit, dragging Rowan with them. Through their bond, he feels Seraphine's anguish, her indecision, flee with the crown as duty demands, or follow her heart and the pull of their connection. The last thing Rowan sees before they drag him into the darkness is Seraphine's face, torn between duty and something deeper. The crown blazing upon her brow like a constellation of captured stars. The warehouse door slams shut with the finality of a tomb being sealed. Rowan's mind screamed against the darkness as Azrael dragged him through the night. The transformation rippled beneath his skin, neither complete nor reversible, leaving him suspended between worlds, too weak to fight back, but increasingly aware of every shadow, every scent, every whisper of the night air against his skin. The Crimson Daughters flanked them, moving with predatory grace through the abandoned industrial district. Their pale faces remained impassive, but their eyes, their hungry, ancient eyes, never left him. One of them, the tallest with hair like spilled ink, leaned close enough that her breath chilled his cheek. The guardian awakens, she murmured. Can you feel it, little one? The night singing in your veins. Azrael jerked Rowan away from her. Enough, Lilith. He's not for you. They approached a decrepit factory, its broken windows like jagged teeth against the night sky. Rowan tried to memorize the route, to find landmarks he could use if, when, he escaped. But the city looked different through his changing eyes. The darkness no longer an obstacle, but a canvas painted with scents and sounds and subtle movements. Through the bond, he felt Seraphine's presence like a distant flame, moving, following. She hadn't abandoned him. Relief and terror mingled in his chest. "She's coming," he managed to say, his voice rough with transformation. Azrael smiled. "Of course she is. That's the plan." Inside the factory, iron catwalks crisscrossed above a vast open space. Rusted machinery loomed like sleeping monsters. The Crimson Daughters dispersed to various positions, taking up sentry posts with military precision. Azrael dragged Rowan to the center of the room, where a circle had been carved into the concrete floor. Ancient symbols glowed with a faint blue light, pulsing like a heartbeat. "The gateway," Azrael said, shoving Rowan to his knees at the circle's edge. "When she arrives with the crown, we'll open the way to the Night Dominion, our true home." "She'll never give you the crown," Rowan said, tasting blood as his canines lengthened, pricking his lower lip. Azrael's laughter echoed through the cavernous space. "She already is. Every step she takes toward you is a step toward us." He crouched beside Rowan, studying his face with clinical interest. "The change is progressing nicely. You're stronger than most humans. I can see why she chose you." "She didn't choose me," Rowan said. "I was just there." "Is that what you think?" Azrael's eyes glittered. "Poor, ignorant guardian. Nothing in our world happens by chance. You were marked for this role centuries before your birth." Before Rowan could question this, a commotion erupted near the eastern entrance. One of the Crimson Daughters flew backward through the air, crashing into a pillar with bone-shattering force. In the doorway stood Seraphine, the crown blazing upon her brow, her eyes incandescent with rage. "Release him," she commanded, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. Azrael rose slowly, smiling. "Your Majesty, how kind of you to join us." The remaining Crimson Daughters closed ranks around Rowan and Azrael. 5 against 1, terrible odds, even for Seraphine. Yet she stepped forward without hesitation, power radiating from her in palpable waves. "This ends tonight, Azrael," she said. "I won't let you open the gateway." "You misunderstand, my queen." Azrael gestured to the circle. "I'm not opening it. You are." He nodded to the daughters, who moved with blurring speed. 2 engaged Seraphine directly while the others dragged Rowan fully into the circle. The moment his body crossed the boundary, the symbols flared brighter, and pain lanced through him. It felt as if his blood were turning to fire, his bones to molten metal. Through the agony, Rowan watched Seraphine fight. She moved like living shadow, faster than his changing eyes could track. One daughter fell, then another, their bodies crumbling to ash. But the remaining 3 pressed their advantage, herding her toward the circle. "Seraphine!" Rowan called out, fighting against the hands that held him. "It's a trap! The circle!" A vicious blow silenced him, but Seraphine had heard. Understanding dawned in her eyes. She feinted toward the circle, then abruptly changed direction, launching herself at the factory's support beams. Steel groaned as she tore through one, then another. The building shuddered ominously. "Stop her!" Azrael commanded, but it was too late. With a deafening crack, the catwalk above them collapsed. Metal and concrete rained down, crushing one of the daughters beneath the debris. In the chaos, Seraphine dove toward Rowan, her hands outstretched. Their fingers met across the boundary of the circle. The moment they touched, the symbols blazed with blinding light. The floor beneath them seemed to liquefy, becoming a swirling vortex of darkness and stars. "Hold on to me!" Seraphine shouted, gripping Rowan's hand with supernatural strength. They were falling, spinning through endless night. Rowan felt the last vestiges of his humanity burning away like morning mist. The pain was excruciating, transcendent. Through it all, Seraphine's hand anchored him, her presence a constant in the chaos. They landed hard on smooth stone. Rowan gasped, his newly enhanced senses overwhelmed by the alien environment. They were in a vast cavern, its walls studded with crystals that emitted a soft blue glow. The air tasted ancient, heavy with power and secrets. "The Night Dominion," Seraphine whispered, her voice echoing strangely. "He did it. He forced the gateway open." Rowan struggled to his feet, marveling at the new strength in his limbs. The transformation had accelerated during their passage, leaving him changed in ways he was only beginning to comprehend. His vision had sharpened to preternatural clarity. He could hear the subtle movements of air currents, smell the mineral tang of the stone beneath them. "What is this place?" he asked. "Our ancestral home," Seraphine said, rising beside him. The crown still blazed upon her brow, but its light seemed subdued here, as if competing with the ambient power of the cavern. "The realm from which my kind first emerged into your world centuries ago." A slow handclap echoed through the chamber. Azrael stepped from the shadows, the remaining Crimson Daughters flanking him. All of them appeared battered from the collapse, but triumphant. "Well done, Your Majesty," Azrael said. "You've brought the crown exactly where it belongs." Seraphine pushed Rowan behind her, a futile protective gesture now that he stood nearly her equal in strength. "This was your plan all along, to force me to open the gateway." "Only the true queen can open the way," Azrael agreed. "And only when the Guardian's transformation is underway. The ancient laws are quite specific." "What Guardian?" Rowan demanded. "What are you talking about?" Azrael's smile was pitying. "You still don't understand your role in this drama, do you? The Guardian is the Queen's protector, her consort, her anchor to humanity. Every true queen must choose one, or have one thrust upon her by circumstance. I was an EMT who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time," Rowan insisted. "Were you?" Azrael looked to Seraphine. "Tell him, my queen. Tell him about the bloodlines, the prophecy, the careful selection." Rowan turned to Seraphine, whose face had gone still with a terrible resignation. "What is he talking about?" "Your family line," she said softly. "The Hales. They've served as guardians for generations. Your great-grandfather was my last chosen protector before I was forced into hiding." The revelation hit Rowan like a physical blow. "That's impossible. My great-grandfather died in World War II." "Did he?" Seraphine's eyes held centuries of sorrow. "Daniel Hale disappeared in France in 1944. The body was never found. Daniel, his namesake, the great-grandfather whose faded photograph had sat on his father's mantel. The family resemblance had always been striking. The same eyes, the same stubborn set of the jaw." "You knew him," Rowan whispered. "You knew him, and you knew me before that night in the alley." "I've watched over your family for decades," Seraphine admitted. "When the signs indicated the time was coming, when the Crimson Daughters began to stir, I knew I would need a guardian again." "So you manipulated me, orchestrated our meeting." The betrayal cut deeper than any physical wound. "No." Seraphine reached for him, but he stepped back. "The attack was real. My weakness was real. But yes, I knew who you were. I knew your potential." "How touching," Azrael interrupted. "But we have more pressing matters. The crown, Your Majesty." He gestured, and the Crimson Daughters moved to surround them. In the confined space of the cavern, there was nowhere to run. "Don't give it to him," Rowan said, finding his resolve despite the revelation. Whatever her deception, he knew Seraphine was the rightful queen. The crown's light responded to her in a way it never could to Asriel. Seraphine's eyes met his, a silent communication passing between them through their bond. He felt her regret, her determination, and beneath it all, a desperate plan forming. "The crown belongs in the Night Dominion," she said, her voice carrying the weight of royal decree. "As do I." She removed the crown from her head. The moment it left contact with her skin, the cavern dimmed, crystals flickering like dying stars. Asriel stepped forward eagerly, hands outstretched. "At last," he breathed, "the power of the true queen, mine to command." "The crown serves the queen," Seraphine corrected, "not the other way around." With a sudden movement, she flung the crown, not to Asriel, but high into the air, toward the center of the cavern. As it arced through the darkness, it blazed like a comet, illuminating the vast space. For the first time, Rowan saw the true scale of the Night Dominion. The cavern extended for miles, a subterranean kingdom of crystal and shadow. At its center stood a raised dais of black stone, carved with the same symbols as the circle in the factory. The crown, as if drawn by an invisible force, altered its trajectory mid-flight. It soared toward the dais, hovering above it in a nimbus of blue light. "No!" Asriel lunged forward, but Seraphine intercepted him. They collided with supernatural force, the impact sending shockwaves through the cavern. The Crimson Daughters moved to aid Asriel, but Rowan was ready. His new strength surged through him as he engaged the nearest daughter, his movements guided by instincts he hadn't known he possessed. They were evenly matched in strength, but Rowan fought with the desperation of a man protecting something precious. The cavern became a battlefield. Seraphine and Asriel locked in their ancient struggle, Rowan and the daughters circling in deadly combat. Crystal shards rained down as their bodies slammed into walls, floor, ceiling. The crown continued to hover above the dais, its light pulsing in rhythm with the battle. Rowan dispatched one daughter, then found himself facing the remaining two. They moved with perfect coordination, centuries of fighting as a unit evident in their synchronized attacks. He was driven back, step by step, toward the edge of a precipice he hadn't noticed before, a chasm that seemed to drop into infinite darkness. Through their bond, he felt Seraphine's desperate warning. The chasm was no natural formation, but a void between worlds, a place of no return. If he fell, not even his new immortality would save him. Cornered, wounded, Rowan made a desperate gamble. As the daughters closed in, he dropped to the ground and rolled beneath their grasp, coming up behind them. Before they could turn, he shoved with all his strength, sending one tumbling into the void. Her scream lingered long after she had vanished from sight. The remaining daughter attacked with renewed fury, driving Rowan back toward Seraphine and Asriel. The four combatants converged near the dais, the crown's light washing over them in waves. Asriel had Seraphine pinned against the black stone, his hands around her throat. "Yield," he demanded. "Yield, and I may let your guardian live." "Never," Seraphine gasped. Rowan, still grappling with the last daughter, felt Seraphine's pain through their bond. Without conscious thought, he channeled his strength through the connection, offering her his power. The bond between them flared, visible now as a thread of silver light connecting their bodies. Seraphine's eyes widened as Rowan's strength flowed into her. With a surge of power, she broke Asriel's hold, flinging him backward. He skidded across the stone floor, coming to rest at the edge of the chasm. It's over, Asrael, Seraphine said, advancing on him. The crown has chosen its resting place. The gateway will close. Not without its queen, Asrael snarled. With inhuman speed, he lunged not at Seraphine, but at Rowan, who was still locked in combat with the last daughter. Time seemed to slow. Rowan saw Asrael coming, saw the deadly intent in his eyes. He felt Seraphine's terror through their bond, her desperate lunge to intercept. But she wouldn't reach him in time. In that moment of clarity, Rowan made his choice. He stopped fighting the transformation, stopped resisting the night singing in his veins. He embraced what he was becoming, not just a vampire, but a guardian, bound by blood and destiny to protect the queen. As Asrael reached him, Rowan moved with newfound grace, sidestepping the attack. In the same fluid motion, he grasped Asrael's outstretched arm and used the vampire's momentum to swing him toward the chasm. Asrael's face contorted with shock as he teetered on the edge. His hand shot out, catching Rowan's wrist in an iron grip. "If I fall, you fall with me, guardian." The last crimson daughter, seeing her master's peril, abandoned her attack on Rowan to grasp Asrael's other hand. For a moment, they hung in precarious balance. Rowan anchored to solid ground, the daughter pulling Asrael back from the brink. Then Seraphine was there, her hand closing over Rowan's, adding her strength to his. Together, they broke Asrael's grip. The ancient vampire and his loyal daughter toppled backward into the void, their screams fading into the bottomless dark. Silence fell in the cavern. Rowan and Seraphine stood at the edge of the chasm, hands still clasped, the silver thread of their bond pulsing between them. "It's done," Seraphine whispered. Above the dais, the crown began to descend, settling onto the black stone. The moment it touched the surface, the symbols carved into the dais blazed with light. The entire cavern resonated, crystal formations humming in harmonic response. "What's happening?" Rowan asked, feeling the stone vibrate beneath his feet. "The Night Dominion awakens," Seraphine said, awe in her voice. "It recognizes its queen has returned." Throughout the vast cavern, lights began to appear, not the blue glow of the crystals, but warm, golden illumination emanating from structures Rowan hadn't noticed before. Buildings, towers, an entire subterranean city carved from crystal and stone, dormant for centuries, now coming to life. "Your kingdom," Rowan murmured. "Our kingdom," Seraphine corrected. She turned to face him fully, her eyes searching his. "If you choose it." The silver thread of their bond pulsed between them, stronger now, no longer just a connection, but a bridge between two souls. "You knew who I was," Rowan said. It wasn't quite an accusation, but the hurt remained. "You knew about my family, about Daniel." "Yes." Seraphine didn't flinch from the truth. "The bloodline of guardians is rare and precious. When I sensed you that night, when I smelled your blood, I knew who you must be." "Did you plan for this? For me to become like you?" "No." Her hand tightened on his. "That was never my intention. I wanted you safe, human, protected from my world. But fate had other plans." Rowan looked out over the awakening city, the night dominion stirring from centuries of slumber. He thought of the life he was leaving behind, the lonely apartment, the night shifts, the endless parade of human suffering he could never fully alleviate. He thought of Daniel, his namesake, who had perhaps stood in this very spot decades ago, making the same choice. "What happens now?" he asked. "The gateway will remain open for a time," Seraphine said. "You could return to the human world if you wish, Your transformation is complete enough that you would survive there, though you would need to learn to control your new nature. And if I stay? Her eyes softened. Then you take your place as guardian to the Queen. We rebuild what was lost. We make the Night Dominion a sanctuary again, not just for our kind, but for all who need protection from the darkness that hunts them. The silver thread between them pulsed, carrying emotions too complex for words. Hope, fear, longing, a future unwritten but full of possibility. Rowan looked down at their clasped hands, his pale skin now a match for hers. He was no longer fully human, but neither was he a monster. He was something in between, a bridge between worlds, just as Daniel had been. I stay, he said simply. Seraphine's smile was like the dawn breaking after the longest night. She led him away from the chasm, toward the dais where the crown rested. As they approached, the symbols carved into the stone pulsed in welcome. Seraphine released his hand to lift the crown. It blazed in her grasp, no longer with the desperate brightness of a weapon, but with the steady glow of rightful inheritance. She placed it upon her head, and the Night Dominion sang in response, crystal formations chiming in perfect harmony. "Kneel, Rowan Hale," she said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. He knelt before her, not in submission, but in acceptance of his choice, his destiny. "Do you pledge yourself to the Night Dominion and its queen, to stand as guardian between worlds, protector of the balance, keeper of ancient ways?" "I do," Rowan said, the words feeling right, inevitable. Seraphine extended her hand. A small silver dagger materialized in her palm, its blade etched with symbols that matched those on the dais. She drew the edge across her wrist, then held it out to him. "Then drink, guardian, and seal your oath." Rowan took her wrist gently, the scent of her blood calling to his transformed nature. He drank, completing the ritual that had begun in that alley weeks ago. The bond between them flared, no longer silver but gold, a permanent bridge between queen and guardian. When he rose, he was changed again, not physically, but in essence. He could feel the Night Dominion around him, not as a foreign place, but as an extension of himself. The crystals hummed in response to his presence, acknowledging him as the Queen's chosen. Together, they descended from the dais toward the awakening city. Lights bloomed before them, illuminating a path through ancient streets. In the distance, Rowan could hear movement, other inhabitants of the Night Dominion, emerging from centuries of hiding to greet their returned queen. "They're coming," he said, his enhanced senses picking up the approach of dozens, perhaps hundreds of beings. "Yes," Seraphine said, her hand finding his again. "Our people are coming home." As they walked the crystal streets, the first of the Night Dominion's inhabitants appeared, pale, beautiful beings with ancient eyes and cautious hope. They bowed to Seraphine, the crown upon her brow marking her authority. But they looked at Rowan with equal reverence, recognizing the guardian by the golden bond that connected him to their queen. The Night Dominion continued to awaken around them, buildings lighting from within, fountains beginning to flow with water that glowed like liquid moonlight. It was beautiful, alien, and somehow familiar. As if Rowan had walked these streets in dreams he couldn't quite remember. Seraphine led him to a tower of spiraling crystal at the city's heart. From its summit, they could see the entire kingdom spreading below them, a hidden world beneath the human one, secret and sacred. "Welcome home, guardian," Seraphine said softly. Rowan stood beside his queen, watching their kingdom awaken. The golden bond between them pulsed with shared purpose, shared destiny. He was no longer the man who had knelt in an alley to help a wounded stranger. That man had died a little each night, watching human suffering he could never fully alleviate. In his place stood the guardian, immortal protector of a hidden realm, bound to its queen by blood and choice and ancient prophecy. The night no longer held terror for him. It was his domain now, as much a part of him as the heart that no longer needed to beat but chose to anyway, keeping time with the one beside him. Below them, crystal chimes rang out in welcome, their ethereal music rising through the tower like the voices of ghosts finally finding peace. Rowan closed his eyes and listened to the song of the night dominion. His dominion now, its melody as familiar as his own pulse, calling him home at last.